Always excited to have you guys tuning in here. Let's go ahead and get right down to it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. My name is John Bush, and I'm really excited to be bringing you this show today. We are going to be talking about mindset, focus, attention. We'll talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency just a little bit, and then we'll be joined shortly by Matt Powers. Matt Powers is a permaculture guy that actually happens to live really close to us here in Central Texas, and he will be speaking at the Exit and Build Land Summit. If you haven't got your tickets yet, I highly encourage you to do so. You can go over to exitandbuildlandsummit.com, exitandbuildlandsummit.com to do just that. But we're really got a great show put together for you guys. And of course, if you're not familiar with the Exit and Build Land Summit, it's all about helping people to exit the cities, buy land, and build community in the country. That is what it's all about, and we're always excited to help facilitate what we call the urban exit. So if you are familiar with this whole Great Reset agenda, which we spend a lot of time countering, overcoming, pushing back on, you'll know that a lot of the tyranny and treachery of the Great Reset will be carried out in the big cities, in the major cities. That's where the technology will be most prolific. That's where we'll have the Internet of Things, 5G, interconnected, this, that, and the other. And it's just going to be like a total surveillance panopticon in most major cities. That's what's in store. But we don't have to go along with that. In fact, we can create our own agenda to live more free, more prosperous, more self-sufficient, but with a connected community of free people. So really excited to be bringing you guys this event, and we're excited to hear from Matt Powers about his journey from a public school teacher to a permaculture expert. If you're just joining us, again, this is the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, share with your friends, and if you want to subscribe to the podcast feed, you can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can do so over at livefreenow.show. That's livefreenow.show. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about mindset. Of course, if you're familiar with the work that we do here at Live Free Academy, that's a company I started where it's just basically helping people to become more prosperous, to become more free, and to build greater community with an emphasis on decentralized currency technology like Bitcoin and Monero. But also we dive into homesteading, becoming more independent, and getting off the grid. It's kind of like a holistic approach to creating freedom, but we narrow down into these two areas. And of course, a huge part of what we do has to do with mindset. So I just want to remind people and encourage people to really be conscious about what you choose to direct your attention at. Of course, there's that expression where attention goes, energy flows. And this is very, very true and a worthwhile thing to be aware of, because there's a war on for your mind, as Alex Jones says. There's a war on for your attention. And a lot of businesses, corporations, and of course the predator class are very much wanting to control people. And they control people by really leaning into what it is that they focus on and how they spend their time. And so I know that it's easy to get caught in doom scrolling. Like the algorithms on social media are just completely designed to suck you in. And so let us be aware of how sometimes we're giving up our autonomy and sovereignty because we're just diving so deep into social media. And then before you know it, time goes by and we don't even know what the heck we've been doing for the past 30 minutes or hour. So I want to encourage people to start to become more aware of how we spend our time and to be more conscious and deliberate with the choices that we make about what we're going to be doing with our time. So on that note, I want to thank you for spending some time with me here on the Live Free Now show. So the big lesson from all that is, of course, that if you are feeling dissatisfied, unfulfilled, frustrated, anxious, and overwhelmed with your life, chances are you're focusing on negativity. You're focusing on lack. But for those of you that are feeling fulfilled and happy and satisfied with life, I have a feeling that you focus a lot of your attention on the good things and things that bring you joy and family and freedom and gardening and all the plenty that is in this world. So if you're feeling down and out, it's even more important that you focus in on what brings you joy, happiness, and fulfillment. And so there's this thing that happens a lot within our freedom community, in our truther community. There's a tendency for people to spend a significant amount of their time focused on the problem, watching endless documentaries on Rumble, checking out the latest fear bait article that gets them all worked up and amped up. And there's a lot of people that spend most of their time on the computer, or that's the activism that they do. They're sharing articles on Telegram and forwarding this and that. And I've just come to notice that the more people spend, the more time and energy and attention people give to and spend on social media and doom scrolling and conspiracy documentaries, the more they believe that there's this omnipotent new world order that's just pressing down upon us, and there's this huge weight on their shoulders. Contrast that with people that are out in the community, meeting people, going to events, growing their own food, getting the kids together, getting healthy, going to their natural doctors, having potlucks. People in that camp tend to feel more free and enjoy life more. So we all have the ability to choose how we spend our time. We have the ability to choose what we focus on. And I just strongly want to encourage you to focus on that which brings you joy and to be very deliberate. Again, especially if you're frustrated, especially if you're having a hard time with life, I really want to encourage you to spend more time focused on the good stuff in life, because sure, there is this predator class, there is this new world order. There's no denying that. Let's not be naive about that. But in all reality, they're not as powerful and ever present as they would like you to believe. And perhaps, just like they say, the best trick the devil ever pulled was getting people to believe that he's not real. I believe the best trick the New World Order ever pulled was getting people to believe that they're all powerful. In one of those circumstances, to segue to something I want to share about with you guys. As you may know, if you follow my work, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and Monero. Shout out to the audience watching on Twitter, aka X. It looks like we got more people viewing than normal. So go ahead and comment there. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Hey. Where are you tuning in from? I saw old Elon and X. They want to tweak the algorithm so more people, so you get a bigger boost when you're live. So I guess that's the case, because we usually had quite a few, much fewer people checking us out on Twitter. But let me know where you're from. We can highlight that there. We'd love to hear from you guys where you're tuning in from. We're also live streaming to YouTube, so let me know in the YouTube chat where you guys are coming in from as well. Okay, so I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I'm a big proponent of Bitcoin. And one of the objections that I hear more often than not, and the funny thing is this is an objection that's been brought up for quite a long time, and Bitcoin's been around for 13, 14 years now, almost 15 years, and people still believe this to be the case. But I'm like, hey, what if I told you there was this new decentralized digital currency that can't be controlled by governments, that enables people to store value, to grow their value, and it enables people to send money back and forth to one another without anyone being able to stop it? Now, there's a lot to unpack there, of course, and I do believe that Bitcoin in some ways has lost its true purpose, which is why I'm a big fan of Monero for digital cash, peer-to-peer electronic cash. But either way, there's people that immediately respond with, well, it's probably the New World Order money, and this is just paving the way for central bank digital currencies. And the old adage, of course, if Bitcoin truly was so revolutionary, they're just going to shut it down and turn it off. And to that, I always reply, okay, I hear you, but let me ask you this. How many years have to go by with Bitcoin still operating, still enabling people to transact and send money back and forth without the government being able to stop them? How many years does that have to happen before you kind of let go of that and understand that, hey, this is okay. We can still do this. Before you kind of just let go of that fear and recognize that it's operating, it's flowing, and it's working as it should. So just to relate it back to what I was sharing before, I do often experience that people project omnipotence on government, on the mega corporations, on the predator class, on the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, for example. We all need to recognize that they are not omnipotent. And one thing that gives me hope is understanding that the free people of the world, we operate in the light with truth. In order for the predator class to carry out their agenda, they have to use coercion, deception, manipulation, control. Okay? So let's just get real clear on that. All we have to do is align with our higher purpose, align with our inherent good, and we will prevail. The enemies of freedom have to manipulate, socially engineer, and twist the truth in order to push their agenda. That means that we actually have the upper hand if we would just recognize the power that we truly have. Okay, guys? If y'all want to dive deeper with me, I'm hosting a webinar tomorrow. If you're watching this, today is March 20th. The webinar is going down March 21st. You can still register to join for free. It's the Unlock Your Financial Sovereignty webinar. You could register at livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. That's livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. It'll be at 11 a.m. We are going to be breaking down everything you need to know to onboard safely into this space. I am an old school crypto veteran, been involved in the space for quite some time. And, I've made the mistakes. I've overcome the mistakes. I've learned from the mistakes. And I'm just here to teach people how to get involved safely. Because, there's this whole phenomenon of FOMO that always kicks in, fear of missing out. And if you're a Bitcoin or a crypto person, you're probably aware of this. People are really amped up when the price gets high. Meanwhile, they were ignoring you, not paying attention when the price was low, or $10,000, $5,000. I mean, I've been promoting Bitcoin since it was like $200 or less. So there's always that phenomenon. But there is a strategy you can employ to ensure that you don't buy high, and then, of course, the price is like a wild roller coaster. You don't buy high and then sell low. So I want to definitely help to make sure that you guys don't get wrecked, as they call it, and make those mistakes. So yeah, definitely excited for you guys to be joining us there. We're going to be joined by Matt Powers here pretty soon. But again, the website there is livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. I'll be breaking down my 3 secrets. Number 1, why Bitcoin is better than gold in almost every way and will become the most valuable asset. Let's move that out of the way. It will become the most valuable asset in the world. And then secondly, undeniable proof that no government, internet shutdown, EMP, or hacker group in the world can shut down, censor, or break Bitcoin. And then finally, I'll share my dead simple framework for absolute beginners to immediately start using Bitcoin for financial sovereignty, long-term wealth protection. And we'll also be talking about Monero as well. So I'm a Bitcoin guy through and through, but when it comes to peer-to-peer electronic cash, when it comes to transacting outside of the system, I'm definitely a big fan of Monero. Again, the website is livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. That's livefree.academy/Bitcoin webinar. And I hope that you will join us where you can hear more about what it is that we're doing and how we are rocking and rolling on that front. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we're going to be joined here shortly by the one, the only Matt Powers. Really excited to have Matt Powers joining us. We'll see when he shows up. He should be here in person. If not, he'll be joining us via Zoom. But we're always excited to have guests here on the show. So let me share a little bit more about this exit and build strategy for you guys. And again, thank you for tuning in. We got quite a few people watching there on Twitter, aka X, and shout out to the audience that is tuning in on YouTube. We're going to be setting up a Rumble channel as well. And this does show up on Odyssey. Shout out if you're listening on the podcast. If you're just tuning in, this is the Live Free Now show with John Bush, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. Always excited to have you guys here. And let me just check in here with Matt Powers. You joining us in studio? I'm ready for you. Okay, so this whole exit and build strategy, I'm curious if you guys are familiar with this. Let me know in the chat there, in the comments on Twitter. Let me know in the YouTube chat as well. Are you familiar with the exit and build strategy that we promote? My good friend and associate Derek Bros is also a proponent of this strategy. So it goes like this. In order to bring about change in this world, rather than protesting, yelling at government buildings, arguing with your neighbors, tweeting, posting articles on social media, if we want to bring about change, we should be proactive. We should build the world that we all desire. So there's two parts, of course, to creating the freedom in this ideal world that we're desiring. One piece is exiting the legacy institutions, the problematic systems, the centralized, coercive, corrupt, manipulated systems and institutions, banks, big pharma, government, controlled media monopolies, right? Exiting these institutions and building new institutions. And ultimately, I believe this is how we are going to create lasting liberty for future generations. It's not just about us, it's about the future generations to come. Okay, so but there's this challenge, of course, because when we're talking about exiting, we're talking about like genuinely opting out 100%, creating real freedom for ourselves, as in self-governance, as in political autonomy. But doing so sometimes comes with a risk, right? It can be a challenge to opt out entirely because maybe you have a 401k, maybe you have a mortgage, maybe you're paying property tax, right? So what we also advocate doing is building these alternative systems and clearing the way to opt out. That's what exit and build is all about. And one thing that's going to make it much more attainable and easier is if we find a lot of people that believe like we do, that are ready and willing to work together on these endeavors. Because I tell you what, folks, there is strength in numbers. There's strength in numbers, and the more people that we get aligned on the same page, the more people that join us in this exit and build mission, the more likely we are to achieve our goals, and the more likely we are to achieve not only freedom, but also do so while being at peace. Not like opting out or disobeying these unjust laws and then always having to look over our shoulder because we're worried the cops are going to come get us. No, we're trying to amass such a critical number, a critical mass of people that we can peacefully opt out, okay? And again, one of the big things that we're doing in order to accelerate this is this whole exit and build land idea. So as I shared, exit and build is like this overall strategy. It entails exiting all sorts of different systems, opting out of all sorts of different systems. But what we focus on with the Exit and Build Land Summit is specifically exiting the cities, buying land, and building community. Now, there's a big element of growing your own food, off-grid technologies as well, preparedness. But the core of it is like, get the heck out of the city. You're not going to believe how much tyranny is going on in the city, and build community. Get a homestead. Maybe you buy land together with other people. Maybe you buy your own homestead, but then you connect with your neighbors and you form like tight-knit relationships where you get each other's back, okay? And that's exactly what the Extend Build Land Summit is all about, and that's what the Extend Build Land Summit aims to do. So our next Land Summit, Extend Build Land Summit 4, is coming up May 17th, 18th, and 19th. I really think you're going to enjoy this event and get a whole lot out of it. Let's go ahead and watch this little introductory video here. And the sound should come through just fine, but let's go ahead and take a look at this here. The entire system, government, mega corporations, the media is basically a big fraud. After COVID, this pandemic, a lot of people woke up. They pushed too hard and caused a lot of people to start questioning the status quo. We decided, let's put together an event, bring together people that want to homestead, that want to build community, but don't know how or don't believe in their ability to do so.
We have the hippies and the lefties, and then we have the Ron Paul libertarians and the Rothbardian and the anarchists.
This homesteading, regenerative agriculture, permaculture, living together, buying land cooperatively, that is the new path forward.
It's brought together people from all walks of life, and that's what's so beautiful is that when you come together for a purpose like this, it unites everyone rather than divides everyone.
Don't just oppose something, rather stand for something.
The Exit and Build Land Summit has been awesome, and I would say to anybody out there who's considering doing this next year, do it. You won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so that's the Exit and Build Land Summit. This is my lovely wife, Rebecca, who is the primary producer of the Exit and Build Land Summit. So we thought she would drop in here for a sec. Matt Powers is here at the old office.
I have the dogs because when Matt walked into our office, they started barking. So I was just sitting here to make sure that the cameras are tuned in. So is everything looking good?
Well, give us a quick little elevator pitch. What's the Land Summit all about? Why should people join us?
Yeah, so the Exit and Build Land Summit is a gathering in Central Texas. We also live stream it for free so that everyone can have access to this great information. And essentially, we bring together folks who are interested in homesteading, permaculture, buying land, building community, and building these alternative human settlements, which are really paving the way for a more regenerative future, reconnecting with the land, and understanding where our food comes from, bartering, supporting the local economy so that we can all make decisions on a daily basis, that will eventually make the world a better place.
Okay, sounds like a great mission, and thank you for that update. But without further ado, and who are these guys?
And we have cute dogs. So.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and bring Mr. Matt here. And, we're self-producing the show. One of these days I'll have like a little transition thing that we can play. Oh, sorry, guys. I forgot to switch the camera. One of these days we'll have a nice little transition here for you, but oh, look at those cute dogs. All right, let's go ahead and bring Mr. Matt Powers here. I actually met Matt through the one, the only Jack Spierko, who also will be speaking at the Exit and Build Land Summit. In fact, Jack has been a speaker at every single one of the summits. A good friend of mine, and he is a fan of Mr. Matt here. So, how are you?
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is our first time to meet here in person. Excellent. Thanks for joining us. So, let me dial this in here because I like to switch the cameras, get all fancy. But tell me a little bit about yourself. And whenever it's just you'll be looking at camera number 4 there, Mr. Matt.
Okay.
What's your story?
So, a long time ago, I was a professional musician.
Okay.
And I was a touring musician, and I thought I had it made.
Okay. The good life?
I really did. And I met my wife. We got married. I called the lead singer in my band, and I was like, I got to tell you something. He was like, I got to tell you something. And I was like, I asked my girlfriend to marry me.
That's a big step.
And he goes, shut up, I hate you. Because he had asked Rachel Ray the same night to get married, and
Rachel Ray, is that
Rachel
the
Ray,
kitchen lady?
yeah, the kitchen lady,
The chef lady?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, I was all set.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's good company.
I was a bass player for John Cusimano's band, and then he met Rachel. They got married. Then we hired Sean Pelton, the SNL's house drummer since the 90s.
Okay, cool.
When it was still funny.
Oh, yeah, so you're all pro.
Yeah, and so I did touring. I had a 2-story apartment with the bass, just playing bass. So I thought I had made it.
Good.
But
I play bass too,
so many of us are musicians that get into this.
It's like a creative thing.
It's a series. Farmers and creatives, we're like, I think a lot of the reason we are creative is because we're not working with the land.
Okay.
So my wife got cancer when our son was 1 year old, and the baby had to go stay with her sister when she got the radiation to ablate her thyroid. After they surprise removed it, and then made me tell her that she had cancer. The doctors didn't tell my wife that she had cancer. They made me tell her, and then they gave her the radioactive iodine, so it ablated her thyroid, and then gave her another form of cancer. And when I asked the doctors about it, they got all like, couldn't make my eye, and quickly had to leave the room. And so I got really mad. I'm still a new husband. We're still in the honeymoon period, basically. We have a baby, and now I'm like, my wife has cancer, and now another form of cancer. What do I do? And so I asked her what she wanted to do, because, at that point you're like, well, honey, what do you want to do? And she wanted to recover with her folks. And so I left that job. I mean, I was making like so much money playing bass, like twice a month. And like most folks, like everyone thought it was insane. Everyone in the band like couldn't believe it, and they actually would send limousines to go find me in the foothills of Central Valley, California, and like on dirt roads to find me, and then bring me back, fly me home to New York City, so I'd play gigs.
Okay.
For a while, until I found someone to replace me, and that person's still in the band. And that was 2006, 2007.
Okay.
So the person's still in the band.
Okay.
So I left the dream job, and I moved out west, tried to make it work out there. I ended up going from being paid thousands of dollars a month to making $70 a night.
Okay.
At the blues circuit.
Okay.
And so if you guys know the blues circuit.
Well, like open mics and stuff?
No, much worse, sir. Much worse. In California, the blues circuit is the casinos.
Oh, wow.
And so the Indian casinos, when you're playing bass for 6 hours and you're looking at the lady, you're like, just look at me. Just look, I'm here! Look at me! And you kind of lose your mind, and you lose all your ego. And so I just felt like awful and felt worthless, and my wife wasn't getting any better. She kept getting cancer. We did the Gerson therapy. Then I couldn't afford the organic food to do the juicing. And then I started going into debt, credit, and started subbing. Got even more debt. And then I realized I just couldn't keep doing it. And so I became a full-time teacher. I got the health insurance. I started trying to do gardening. And I don't know if you know any people with this experience. The first time they garden, they think they're awesome. And it's the first time that area has ever been gardened. And so, like, I thought it was amazing. I was like, this is easy.
In California?
Yeah. And everyone was like, just wait till the deer find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was gardening with no fences. And so second year, it was the gophers that found us. Okay. We ran out of, we basically ran out of, like, the Goldilocks level of, like, everything. And my father-in-law, bless his heart, got bull manure and put in hot bull manure. So
burnt
everything. High nitrates, right? And so it made tons of weedy grass. And so I was like, what's going on this year? I don't understand any of this. And so I started studying organic.
It's humbling, huh?
Oh, my word.
Sounds like you've been humbled over and over and over throughout your life.
There's a lot of earlier stuff that too. I was the third born. Both my brothers were junior Olympians. I was the runt, never going to make it. And
you were the artsy one.
Yeah, but it wasn't so good. So I played bass.
Sure.
But I really struggled to figure it out until permaculture arrived.
And
And
it clicked.
I started doing Sepp Holzer, Masanobu Fukuoka, Bill Mollison, and then I learned from Jeff Lawton and Elaine Ingham, and I just kept mixing everything. I firmly believe that there's only three modes. There's copying, there's remixing, and then there's mashup. So you take ideas wholesale, you take ideas and translate to new locations, or you combine ideas. And so that's all I was doing and compounding it. And the school I eventually became a teacher at had no books. It was all laptops. And so there was no curriculum, no books. So I had to create it as the English teacher. And so they all wanted individual preps for each kid. So I was creating 150 different individual preps. And I figured out how to create menu-based education. So it's like remember Choose Your Own Adventure books?
I do.
They were the best.
Yeah.
I would stay up so late and like go to the back, find
they were the bomb.
And then like try to like find the one with the alien.
Oh, to go backwards?
Right.
I thought about doing an email series where they like click and it takes them to the next email the next day. And it's like a choose your own adventure, bringing it back.
It's so good. It's so good. So I believe that's life.
Okay.
We all want that in life. We want to be able to choose our own
want
adventure.
control.
We want freedom and we want liberty. Not just freedom. We want to be able to exercise it. Liberty,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so I saw that and I started applying that with my curriculum. I started teaching kids how to start their own businesses, started teaching entrepreneurship.
Oh, cool. In public school?
In a charter school.
Okay. Oh, good. My kids go to a charter school right now.
Yeah, and so I was a public school teacher, focused on communications. They started letting me mix in permaculture.
Nice.
So I was doing.
And that was your passion.
That was my
at
passion, and I've never started a business, so I'm like trying to coach the kids to do Kickstarters. And so I was like in Jeff Lawton's PDC, and I was like, Jeff.
In person?
No, online.
Okay.
And then I was like, Jeff, what if I turn this into a curriculum, like a book on your course, and I'll add in some other stuff, but it'll be basically your PDC on paper. Is that cool? Because there's never been anything for kids, and I see how this would relate to the standards, and so I could make this for like 7th or 12th grade, because that's what my forte is. And he said, yeah. Except he said, you got to let me translate it into Arabic.
Oh, nice.
And then get print rights for 12 years.
Okay.
So that's the reason why when that book first came out, he printed 3,000 copies of it.
Cool.
And in Arabic, and that's what he uses for his Arabic PDCs.
Excellent.
So that was my start. That was like 10 years ago. That was 2014. And what happened was I made $26,000 on Kickstarter in 30 days, which after taxes is more money, or just about as much, as I made as a teacher in California with all the taxes and the crazy healthcare thing.
Well, you're doing some of your passion. Well, it sounds like you were passionate about teaching too.
Oh, my mom created the special ed curriculum for middle school that got adopted into law, and then in New York State, and then adopted into all law nationally.
Wow.
Because in the 70s, they thought that special ed kids couldn't learn.
Yeah. Just
So
put them over there so
yeah,
they don't distract
so
the other
infuriating.
kids. Sure.
So, but I mean, their prerogative is to dumb us down, not to help us. So,
Yep.
My mom though fought that, and she created that curriculum. Her mom was an English teacher too. So I was an English teacher.
Teaching's in your blood.
Yeah. And so I started doing healthcare. We got through my school. They raised the price from $0 a month to $700 a month. And so
I'm sorry, for what? What is
healthcare?
Okay.
$700 a month
As a teacher.
at 3 years in. So they kept raising it and raising it. So all the money you make more every year. And they told me this when my master teacher told me this would happen. I didn't believe him. Every year you make more money as your pay grade goes up, but they charge you more for your health care to guarantee that you never make more money and
Wow.
you never get out of debt. So this is why you don't have qualified teachers.
It's a scam.
It's a total scam. It's meant to crush you mentally and spiritually, and just like you feel awful because you actually can't serve the kids that you so dearly want to serve. So I was at this charter school. I was able to model this. It went through the roof. The kids were like you should quit. The principal that had been protecting me in the district had just retired. So they banned my son from the school. They basically wanted to put me in an isolated room away from the kids.
Why would they didn't like you? You were a rebel or what? Because you're trying to bring in new curriculum, new ideas? They just wanted to stick with the status quo, or what's the story there?
So I galvanized teachers because let's just put it this way. If you're allotted to do the job in an hour, you're supposed to do the job within the hour, right? It's not supposed to spill over into other people's laps. You were hired to teach that child authentically within that hour. Authentic education doesn't mean you go home and do worksheets. We go out in the woods. I teach you to chop wood. You already probably know this, but if I did, you wouldn't go home and do worksheets. You'd never forget it. That's real learning. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, we all can really learn. We all can have fundamental, authentic experiences that are educational that stick with us for life. That's not how education is taught in schools. Mm-hmm. It's actually designed specifically so that nothing really sticks. This is why when you talk to adults, they're like, I remember I did algebra, but
yeah,
right? And then they're like, oh yeah, what's a subjunctive again? Mm-hmm. You know, they can't hold on to any of the information because none of it's tied to anything important, nor is it iterated out so that it builds upon a strong foundation and then you can build upon it.
Sure.
This is what first principles thinking is.
Yep.
Like building upon a sound foundation that's provable and universally based on those principles, then you can build sound foundation.
Yeah. That's an Elon thing.
Yeah, well, it's older than that,
Sure.
but yeah, that's what this book is.
All right, what's this book all about?
So, regenerative soil. I took the first principles thinking of permaculture because permaculture is first principles thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I applied it to soil, and that's what regenerative soil is.
Can you, because there are probably some listeners that may not know exactly what permaculture is or how it differentiates from just traditional
You know what? It's so
food
good.
systems.
It's so good to talk about because permaculture has been used and abused and said all sorts of things about, and kind of there's false actors and there's people online who are paid, obviously paid, to say things and pretend to be like leaders in permaculture. Mm-hmm. And it's really worrisome. So know that when I say permaculture, you're going to find a lot of things different from what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to the original formation of permaculture, David Holmgren, Bill Mollison, they were looking at the longest lasting cultures and how they used regenerative practices. In other words, they partnered with nature in such a way that nature improved and humans thrived. That's all it is. Regenerative means alignment to natural cycles such that it gets better every year. And so permaculture is earth care, people care, and future care. Just those ethics and then the principles of nature.
Future care, because it's right, fair share or return the surplus. I like future care.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is if you actually read Bill's, like, what he's trying to say, and you gather all the little pieces that he's trying to say, he's talking about the future and being responsible, planning for the future, saving for the future. Like, it's all the things we want to teach our kids,
sure,
but they don't teach in school. And then the whole fair share equity thing, it's so disastrous.
Yeah, that's like the leftists came in and kind of made it
it's
like
just slavery.
Yeah.
I mean that's just what that is.
Yep.
It implies that someone is redistributing all the wealth and everyone else is a slave. And so it's really, really worrisome that there's these threads out there. But you know, I read scriptures and I am into that whole sort of thing. I don't know if it'll resonate with people, but they talk about cunning counterfeits. And cunning counterfeits is what we see so often in the world. Greenwashing, that's a cunning counterfeit. The whole carbon economy.
Oh yeah,
that's a freaking cunning not so cunning from my perspective, but it's a counterfeit. Yeah. It's a lie. And the reality is we need to return to alignment with nature, and that doesn't need a machine like that's gonna like make CO2 fuel or something weird like that. It doesn't take it doesn't take losing our rights. It doesn't take creating a penalty on small businesses. All these things that are happening are simply to take away our rights, are simply to install tyranny. So none of it has anything to do with earth care. None of it has anything truly to do with people care. It's all lip service. And if you studied history, because that's my other thing, I was credentialed to teach history, and we were about to move into humanities because I wanted to teach everyone 1984. Maybe that's why they attacked me. But
To actually, I remember reading 1984, but it was never like applied to the experience that we're having, especially nowadays. It's like legit 1984. And then we bring our telescreen with us everywhere we go.
and the seashells are in the ear from Fahrenheit 451, right? And she's taken away listening to voices from far off places, right? Yeah.
Wild.
So I had my kids reading Fahrenheit 451, 1984, and I started Stranger in a Strange Land. And you know how that would have gone with the environment of the attack. Did you read that?
Stranger, Robert Heinlein?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh, that's where the term
I
grok
read
comes from.
The moon is a harsh mistress.
Oh, but the term grok comes from Stranger in a Strange Land. I read it 6 times before I was in 11th
Are you
grade.
referring to Elon's AI?
Yeah. So
Shout out if you're watching us there on Twitter. We normally don't have this many viewers on Twitter, but old Elon recently said they're going to boost the algorithm for people that live stream. So I imagine that's what the 59 viewers are. It's usually
heck
quite a bit
yeah.
fewer on
You might
Twitter.
want to maybe tag me in the comments or something. That'll
Oh
boost
yeah,
it
you're
even more.
you're pretty prolific on.
Yeah, I'm
on
almost
Twitter
at
here.
30,000.
Nice. All right. But you were saying.
It's going to be permaculture 123.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, so I really liked permaculture because it actually solved my problems and allowed me to grow food in 140 degree soils. And so it really has the actual scientific grit within it, but then there's all this mixed up stuff that people have shellacked into it and onto it, and then there's a co-oping that's going on online.
You think there's a deliberate like conspiracy?
Oh yeah,
co-oping?
no, there are people. Okay, there's a
By
person.
what? Big ag or Green New Deal type shit?
I think it's pretty obvious that our government agencies have a prime interest in subverting all alternative thought. And so if you have got a good idea, this is why when I tried to move to Texas, someone in a lease tried to steal all my intellectual property. They worked with NASA. They were a Harvard professor. They tried to steal all my, in perpetuity, past and future.
And pass it off as their own work?
I actually think they don't want the work that this microscopy stuff. They don't want it known because I started doing the DNA work. So the emperor wears no clothes. The whole PCR thing, we're going to PCR it. That's like putting a delay pedal and an overdrive pedal on your signal. You're going to literally create something else. And if you move the cycles high enough, you get wavy gravy sound. It's with Jerry Garcia now. And that's literally what they did with the 400 cycles of PCRing. They made up fake results.
Sure.
And so people are feeling gaslit. Well, you're right to feel that way.
Yeah.
Every single agency and most social community-based things are co-opted now.
Yeah.
And they're infiltrated by false actors.
Yeah.
And so in
And
permaculture,
they have their signal boosted.
right. So in permaculture on Facebook, almost all the groups were run by one person, and they were always on and censoring everyone in permaculture. And when I didn't realize this person was a bad person, when I first got into permaculture, I asked them to help promote it because they own all these groups, and they attacked me for teaching permaculture to kids.
Weird.
Well, it's a tell.
And don't people think
From their-
see that's obvious what's going on there? Who wouldn't want to teach permaculture to kiddos?
This is the thing. It's our birthright to know how to work with nature. And so there are people trying to corrupt these things and create uncertainty, doubt, fear, camps, tribalism, baked into our natural human rights. We have a natural right to know how to work with nature.
Sure.
So I wrote a 400 plus page permaculture textbook, had 24 different peer reviewers. It's all fully cited. It's triple standard based so that we could get into schools everywhere. And I give it away free on my website because I believe it's a human right.
And this is your website here?
Yeah, the permaculturestudent.com.
The permaculturestudent.com.
That's the first book. I give that away free too. But that's the PDC on paper that's Jeff, right? But then that's a shorty. That's a really great one for the kids.
Okay.
But if you scroll down, there'll be a big purple book on there, and that purple book, is my gift to the world. It took me 2.5 years to write. I lost a tooth in the middle of writing it, but I was able to grow food for my family that I knew I could trust. I was able to do things that were impossible until they were done, until I proved that they were possible, because of permaculture perspective. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to put the permaculture torch down and let all these people who are co-opting it and corrupting it carry it, because they are giving the wrong message, and their rigor is missing too. What I did for permaculture was I brought in the citations, I brought the connections to the proven modern case studies. Mm-hmm. So I brought in Joel Salatin and Jean-Martin Fortier, Curtis Stone, all those people that are showcasing permaculture at the highest level. And
I'm not familiar with, what is it, a French guy?
Jean-Martin Fortier is the one who wrote The Market Gardener, which has been a bestseller for years. So
is he a maverick rebel like Curtis and Joel?
Yeah.
It seems like all the best permaculture folks are outside the system kind of guy. I know Spearco for sure is.
And Curtis Stone was a jazz musician. He was a professional jazz.
No shit.
Yeah. So
cool.
Curtis and I early on
he'll be at Confluence during the eclipse. It's out in I forget exactly where, but it's this place that Molly Engelhart put together. It's called Regenerative Ranch. She's actually speaking at the Land Summit too.
Oh, okay.
He'll be here in April. You should come to the event.
Okay, and just give me the details. I'll be there. It's been a while.
He's a badass. He was supposed to be at the Land Summit last year, but he got held up at the border.
I know. Yeah, I was aware of that.
Trouble.
Yeah, so Curtis and I have been longtime pen pals, just talking behind the scenes about it. Because he left permaculture in 2014, 2015.
How do you leave permaculture?
He stopped using the word.
Okay.
He stopped associating with the word and with that audience. And so
I've always been a take the word back kind of guy.
Yeah.
Sustainability is another word like that that's just been kind of co-opted.
I know.
Although you don't necessarily just want to sustain something, right? And as you were saying, permaculture makes things better.
Yeah.
But sustainability is good, but now it's sustainable development, Agenda 21, control, build the machine.
But that's a tactic. Yeah. That's a politically subversive tactic that's been used.
That's 1984, doublethink. You pervert the words.
Right. And so we're really in the middle of a situation where we really need to reestablish lines of trust and communication that allow us to move and build with confidence. That's why it's so important, your event in person, so people can come and feel each other's energy.
Yep.
Because a lot of times people see these screens and they struggle to really feel the person on the other end, especially because there's so many psychopaths and sociopaths on screens, doing their best to convince us that they're genuine.
Yeah, and then people, even good people, puff their chest up and treat people like shit because they're behind the internet. Whereas most of the bullshit, shit talking, trolling that takes place online would never happen face to face because you're squared up with another person and you're like, wait a second.
I don't know if I would qualify those as quite good people. Those are the people that are in the wind. Those are the people that are blown by the wind, and that's 80%.
Sure.
So there's supposedly 80% of the population goes either way.
Yeah, with what's
and
popular.
Then there's 5 to 10% psychopaths and bad, genuinely bad people.
They're the ones in Congress.
Right, and then there's the ones who are 5 to 10%, hopefully a little bit more than that, who are the people who will stand up when something bad is happening and defend that girl, defend that child. And when those people stand up, the rest go along with it.
Like the Milgram experiment, is that what it's called?
I'm referencing just drill sergeants. Drill sergeants working with 1,000 men at a time.
Sure.
In order to keep order, they have to find those guys in order to keep order. Otherwise, morale will just be destroyed very quickly.
Yeah.
Because if you can't catch them, that 70-80% thinks, oh, bad behavior goes unpunished here. Just like in America. Everyone right now in America is demoralized because they are watching, they're promoting pedophilia.
Yeah. It's totally corrupt. There's no accountability.
They're promoting literally the most evil and most corrupt parts of humanity and saying they're good.
Yeah, it's wild.
And there doesn't seem to be a let up. They're just hammering. And again, that's a tactic. And
Well, it makes it seem more prevalent because of the media. But in all reality, I guess the media influences people, and there's more degeneracy in like small and big cities. But you come out to Bastrop, Texas, and that stuff isn't tolerated. It's not talked about.
No.
There is actually a bookstore on downtown Main Street that's very much liberal, democratic, and they're always like the latest topic. So they required masks forever
Ryan,
after.
are you talking about
COVID.
Ryan?
I don't know the name.
Ryan
of the
Holiday?
owner. I don't know the owner of
Is
it.
it the guy? It's the obstacle is the way guy.
I don't know the name of the bookstore.
He's the guy who writes all the stoic things,
Okay.
and so that's why his books are like that whole section in front. It's really a way to sell his books.
The guy that owns the bookstore is the
Yeah,
author.
yeah.
Because I know they did a drag story time
It's
thing.
not about making
like a
money.
provocative
It's about
thing.
putting agendas in the midst of Bastrop.
Sure.
The guy has enough money to do whatever the heck he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
an advocacy bookstore. I used to run a bookstore. It's called Brave New Books, and it was the complete opposite. It was like underground stuff. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, folks, we are joined by Matt Powers. He is a permaculture teacher. His website is thepermaculturestudent.com, thepermaculturestudent.com, and he will be joining us for the Exit and Build Land Summit coming up in May. Check it out at exitandbuildlandsummit.com. You can still get tickets. The tickets are discounted right now for the next week or so, a couple weeks. So definitely join us. This will be the 4th iteration of the event. You get all sorts of sweet bonuses, including replays of the past 3 land summits. That's hours and hours of incredible content. We've had Joel Salatin, Jeff Lawton, all sorts of great folks. Jack Spirko will be joining us once again. My lovely wife and I. We've got Nicole Sauce, who's an incredible doer. Mike Adams of Natural News. We're excited to have him. Good friend Derek Bros, Yoshi and Pola. They're going to bring a perspective of like getting back to our indigenous roots. Good friend Danny and Vanessa are going to be hitting that same topic as well. So definitely check us out. We hope you will be joining us. Again, the website is exitandbuildlandsummit.com. It's going down here in Bastrop, Texas, just about 20-30 minutes east of Austin. Real quick ride from the airport. You're going to get farm-to-table meals. There's farm tours the day before and day after the conference on the 16th and 20th. Those are optional if you can't get away for 5 days, but if you want the full experience, you'll be able to tour these local farms and ranches, and then during the event, you get to eat lunch with food sourced from the very farms and ranches that you just toured. How cool is that? We hope that you'll be joining us, and of course, Matt will be there. So let's talk about your book here. This is actually like really pretty impressive book you got here. A lot of times people put together a little book, and it's kind of scrappy and stuff, but this is like legit. What's this all about? And it looks like you're diving really deep into soil, like literally and figuratively. So what's this all about? And maybe just tell us first, why is soil health so important?
Yeah, so I felt like this had to happen because regenerative ag doesn't have a way to prove good, better, best. And they don't have metrics that are fine enough. Well, they do now because of this book. But soil health is the health of the plants. And the health of the plants is the health of the animals and people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something real quick. You know, everyone's talking about prebiotics, everyone's talking about probiotics. The soils.
Yep.
And so the same microbes that are in your gut when you're healthy are inside the soil and inside the plant, and they actually constitute a feedback loop. So the communication between yourself and the world around you, the DNA, we talk about epigenetics is triggered by the environment. Those microbes are being triggered by the environment of the soil, the environment of the plant, and then we're eating it and we're learning through the food, our environment, and we're calibrating our genes now. We're epigenetically being changed by our food because that's one of the number one signals for epigenetics is a diet. And now we're locally calibrated. This is why that local diet is so important. It's not just like, oh, it's a footprint or something like
trendy.
that. It's not, and it's literally your body is designed to be in constant feedback loop and in alignment with the natural cycles of the environment, the actual ecosystem you live
the
in.
seasons, the food that grows there, the perennials, the viruses, the things that are negative too, creates a feedback loop.
Well, viruses aren't negative. Viruses are signals. In fact, viruses are used within our bodies to signal between things all the time.
Yeah, we're constituted of so many viruses. That's why the COVID stuff, everyone's freaking out. Like, put the mask on for the viruses. It's like the viruses are everywhere, around you all the time.
What's so strange is the first time I saw their image of the virus, I was like, that's endogenous.
Of the COVID virus?
Yeah. I was like, that's endogenous. That's
there's a lot
of
of
our
controversy
body.
about whether viruses are even real or not. I don't know.
Get this.
Haven't dug deep on that.
So we can't talk about things in health very easily, safely, and doctors are afraid to. But over in soil and in animal health, people are openly talking about what's real and what's not. So when we look at our actual health, when we look at what actually works. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. What were you just saying?
We're talking about viruses being real or not.
Right. Bacteria have orbit. This was discovered within the past month and a half. Bacteria have orbit.
What do you mean by that?
They have a force field of energy around them. Okay. Everyone knows this, but they actually have orbit. So they have little phages that hold sections of DNA. The phages are viruses. And the viruses are in orbit around the bacteria, and they exchange DNA with other orbits.
Cool. So
we don't know what that means quite yet. It could mean a bunch of different things. They're environmentally sensing, obviously.
Sounds like it's all interconnected.
But it's actually looks more like the brain. They're actually having discretion because they're able to communicate before it reaches their membrane, and they're being able to choose and pick and choose before it reaches them.
Wow.
And this is the thing. Fungi, you take fungi. It has a brain. There is no physical brain though, and it's the membrane of the cell. It's the discretion between what goes in and what goes out, what's released. What goes in and comes out triggers the actual genes.
What's the purpose? Like, what does it block and what does it let in?
Well, when things are healthy, it's good discretion. It brings in good things and lets out your waste. But when things are sick,
that's the same thing with humans.
Yeah, but when you're sick, one of the number one things that people have when they're sick is their cells aren't releasing waste, and so their cells are getting locked up. And so this is the reality. We are in a soup of biology, and it's a constant changing river of genetic expression in response to environmental stressors. So we can't throw DNA out because it's actually an indicator of the environmental stressors, but we have to look at the morphological expression, how things actually look, in order to understand what they are. And so it's like you DNA test, it's this microbe, and you DNA test the same thing looking, and it's this microbe, but it's the environmental stressor that's making them look that way. They're all developing flippers because they got to swim. They're all developing long snouts because they got to get through this hole to get that food. It's just as it would be as if we were in nature. The crazy thing about these guys is they're the canary in the coal mine. So before you have a disease, you can see it. So before you have a problem, you can track it. You can also see deficiencies before they manifest, because deficiencies aggregate. And so they're a problem that builds over time, hidden. And then there's a disease that comes as a symptom of deficiency. You can see the deficiency. For the first time, regenerative ag has the ability not just to scale and see things from the soil perspective and the microbe. This book is where chemistry and biology were finally combined. Before this, those spaces weren't actually bridged. I was really afraid to do it because I thought I was going to fail. And it was very difficult, I'm not going to lie. But it needed to happen, so it did. I rose to the occasion because we didn't have all the plant essential cycle maps.
Wow.
So the natural way that nutrients actually cycled were all tied up in graduate school textbooks with like 6 pages of block text. And I started like trying to condense that text.
And
And
you got all sorts of great graphics and
yeah, thanks.
imagery that makes it much easier to understand.
But I realized no one was going to understand the blocks of text, especially when the blocks of text have like a symbol in them and then a key down at the bottom, and you got to go like this. And look at that. And you can't make sense of it. And
Uh-oh.
I think it's because they can't
Carbon,
make. Yeah, no.
the big bad guy.
Notice that
Zoom in on
fungi releases 11 times the amount that humans do. It's really important to recognize that. Without fungi releasing the CO2, none of the plants would grow. Photosynthesis can't happen without the CO2. They're using the CO2 argument to gaslight people into thinking it's their fault and then to cover up all the pollution. I mean, think about, that all the spills, all the chemical fires, zero has been said about that. They just want us to be afraid of
life.
our exhalation. And that's the thing, is fungi exhale CO2. And it's meant to. We actually need to be cycling way more CO2. If you shrink the engine of photosynthesis, it makes it look like the fuel is too much. If I shrink your engine in your car and you put in the same amount of fuel, you'll just flood the engine and it'll be like, it's too much. But you just shrunk the engine. That's all we did with desertification. Look at the savanna that was once the Sahara. Look at the Fertile Crescent. Look at the Loess Plateau. Look at all these areas that were just beaten to death with tillage and then chemical ag. All we have to do is bring things back, and the world will be an incredible
cities.
place.
Cities are just concrete without all the plants are taken away.
Well, cities, you go back to the crosswalk. They actually created the cross to control people. So a person can stand in the center and look in all directions. And so the cities were actually, the grids of cities were actually created to control people. So yeah, it's all about taking away our freedom. When I read the Julius Caesar's account of the Celtic Holocaust, that's what it was all about too. They were free people, and they wanted them under their thumb. And it's like the idea of freedom is ancient. We have always wanted freedom. The Celtic women, instead of being taken prisoner and enslaved by Julius Caesar, literally strangled each other with their chains. They agreed to strangle each other, and they killed each other.
Wow.
And so it's like freedom is so vitally important. Being able to interact regeneratively with the world around you, being able to create community, being able to interact with your birthright. And so I really value all these things. The thing that I did with regenerative soil, this book's really just pragmatic. We're talking all about like the way the world is.
Now we're getting all esoteric.
Yeah. But this book, the way I designed this book is I literally designed it so that you see the way nature created soils. You see the way soils are maintained and eroded. You see the pathways that nutrients are released and trapped and changed, and the microbes responsible for it, and then recipes on how to grow those microbes, and then strategies and directions on how to apply those microbes, those minerals, those in such a strategic way that you literally can make a 5 and 10 year plan for your soil and have it get better and better every year. So that's why farmers with 30,000 acres, some farmers with literally hundreds of square miles of farm are using this book. This book is doubling people's yields. So yeah, I designed it to just be straight up, crystal clear, no fluff. I don't want any of me in it. That's really how it is. I just want it to be a clear window for you to see nature, so that you can get in feedback loop with nature, and then all the rest will work itself out. That's really what I believe. That's why I value permaculture so much, is that all this stuff we talk about, all these concerns we talk about, when people have good food, when people have community they can trust, and when people have let that, because that'll take a while to heal through, let the trauma and the fear go, they make great decisions. They choose the best. They challenge themselves. They do the hard work. They do the hard self-work. They follow the path of humility. Like when
They
you
evolve too, just like the soil and the bacteria and the viruses. There's signals that get sent out, but that all gets perverted because nobody learns how to deal with trauma. And I'm not the best parent, of course, but our parents and then previous generations, like my father struggled to even express love because he told me one time when we were having like a vulnerable moment that his dad never told him love. So it's kind of like, just like you were saying, the healthy expression or like unhealthy cells aren't able to express whatever needs to come out. It all gets bottled up, and it's all just like mimicking the same fucking thing on the macro and the micro.
Yeah.
Whether it's plants, bacteria, or human beings, it's all the same thing. We all just need to let it go and just be.
I mean, it's amazing how like doing the Wim Hof can change your cells, can change your blood, change your pH in 20 minutes. That's how it is for everything. I mean, people are like, America's in such dire straits. I'm like, literally everyone is scared, sick, and saying things they don't mean. They're saying things that they're afraid are true. They hope they're not real. And they're saying them almost as like, when someone gets hysterical, gets a little crazy, starts saying stuff that they actually don't mean, but really just want you to like contradict them, But yeah, it's crazy talk time. And so that's really what's going on. And I usually don't delve into the whole, socio-political world. Because I just fundamentally believe so many of those people caught up so deep, so upset, so frightened, so frustrated. You remove the pressure valve and let it all drain out. They start working with soils. They start seeing that they can make a difference in the world. They can serve themselves at a higher level. They can serve their community.
Their family.
Yeah. And then they see that other people, their kids are looking at them differently. They get this different self-worth. And that's mostly what it is, too. People are struggling with self-worth. They're struggling with fear and all these different personal growth issues. That's why this year at Our Future, the online conference I do, we focused on personal growth so much and enthusiasm and bounce back because so many people need that. But I feel like the way to I love it. But I know that there's subtleties around the microbes down to the individual cultivar, individual biome, individual climate, all of that. And so we're just at the beginning of that. And so this is the beginning of a revolution in soil. Because it's so connected to our bodies, what we figured out is that there's specific microbes that key certain medicinal compounds called plant secondary metabolites. So the terpenes in cannabis, they're driven by microbes. Different microbes give you different terpenes, so different medicine can be triggered by and then you're like frankincense, oregano, all of these medicines that are so potent that they're better than things you can get in a hospital setting. I mean, turmeric.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
Until the Rockefellers.
Right.
Who
and
also
it's the
brought
soil.
monocropping.
It's the soil.
The soil.
If we look at mental illness and mineral deficiency and soil deficiency, you will find a direct correlation. And in the 70s, there was papers on it that ADD and depression and autism are all linked to deficiencies in the soil and linked to deficiencies in the food. Somehow the funding for that all went away. And now we're here 40 years later. And so, or
Everybody's
50.
all jacked up.
Yeah. And so it really is the case that healthy soil, and I mean holistically healthy. This is the other thing that, we've talked about so many different things. Regenerative soil is coherent minerals. There's like over 16 different essential minerals. Everyone's like, you need your NPK and your calcium, your magnesium, your zinc. If you don't have cobalt, that's the centerpiece of B12. We need B12. So do the microbes inside your body. So do the microbes inside the plant and the soil. And then you're like, oh, molybdenum's now low. I guess we don't need that. You don't fix nitrogen without molybdenum. So your whole field that you inoculated with rhizobium, what was the point? And then you're like, oh, well, I'm doing mycorrhizal inoculants here. I won. Spent all that money. Did you even check the compost before you added it at the same time? That compost might have been high in phosphorus. That means you just literally negated all of the mycorrhizal inoculation. I could then take a root from there and go under my microscope, go ding, in 30 seconds show you whether it's inoculated or not, and you'd know.
Do you have a lab at your place?
Yeah, I've got a lab. I do DNA testing. I have an epifluorescence microscope. I'll show you a glowing root.
We're kind of in the same neck of the woods.
So the thing is, our roots, when they're inoculated with mycorrhizal fungi, glow so obviously that it's so so stark that folks you can see, well,
I can zoom in.
You know, maybe go to my Twitter
Okay.
and scroll down. That'll be a bigger picture and clearer until you see a giant glowing root. Because the holding up the thing isn't going to be as great.
All right, see what we got
So,
here.
there's Curtis. So, our roots
Where's Curtis?
right there, following me. So
There he is.
so does Mr. Peterson.
Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I'm meeting him in person next month.
Oh, nice.
He's been following me for years.
He's
Kind
got
of
a lot
weird.
good things to say. All right, what do you got? What are we going for?
So that bottom right corner, that glow right there, is what you want to see when you're looking at inoculants, whether you're going to put them on your actual plant roots. That glow is the actual viable fungi. And so if you zoom out, we can even go lower. There'll be another picture that's just a root. So that's a propagule. We should be seeing that. You can go faster. Well, I guess you're having them on screen, huh? But the roots, they should be partnering with this fungi because they evolved with it. That's the thing. When we sterilize the soil with fungicides en masse, and then we did it to such a high level. And it's all things you can learn in the Regenerative Soil Microscopy 20-week online course. If you want to learn how to not just understand your soil, but to see that the things you're doing are actually working. So it's so obvious though, because the opposite is to the right of that. So you see the arm where you see the main root is glowing, the arm is not. The one before, yeah. That's the difference. Every child can be like, oh, it's glowing. That's not glowing. And so this technology is LED lighting. It's brand new. And it's the first time we've ever been able to actually view the roots to check that our inoculants worked.
Nice.
And so this is and it's more than that. I created with the same lighting a way to instantly tell whether you have more life or not. And it's color coded. So the brightness tells you whether you have less life. So the darker it is, the more life. So I've been creating these protocols because the emperor really wears no clothes. So let's look at soil science. In soil science, traditionally, they take a section of soil and then they put it in water. And they either weigh it to a gram, or they add it and displace it to 1 ml, or they tamp it down to 1 ml. All good soils are structured. All natural soils are structured. That means, that's a fancy way of saying there's air. 50 to 60% of good soil is air. And it varies. So you have got that compacted clay soil that you hate. It's just hard as rock, right? How can we possibly compare the numbers, if we're counting, quantifying, between your compacted 1 ml and the structured 1 ml? You can't account for the difference in air. There's no way to do it. So in fact, all the numbers soil science has been bandying around has represented different volumes of the actual soil profile. They've literally just been like tricking themselves and thinking that like this is right and now do this, now do that. None of it's real. And so I said, okay, well, what did the biologists do with the elk and the caribou and the wolves and the predators, you know? Ratios. And so I was like, oh my gosh, ratios. So it doesn't matter that the ML is off. If I do ratios, I can scale it up. Because you just do a dilution. You go a different route. And so I was able to circumvent all the mathematical fallacies that have been built into soil science for over 50 years. I think it's over 100 years now. And so we are in a situation where I can explain like 500 things like that are that fundamentally messed up about what they're trying to tell you from the universities to do with your soil. And this is why I see the little .edus, and I know they're professors because they tell me at the end of the course, they're like, I had lost all hope and faith in teaching, but your course has rejuvenated me. We're talking about Boise State, talking about Stanford, UCLA, Harvard. We're talking about the top level scientists in America are literally being like, Matt, your course helped me get back on track and figure out the science. And it's like, the emperor wears no clothes. And we are in a situation where it's adversarial. Like, I literally almost lost the ability to share this with the world because someone early on recognized what was going to happen. And if you look up online, anything mycorrhizal, anything fungal right now, you'll notice a very serious trend. WILEY, Wiley's, is buying up all the microbiological, all the fungal information up as fast as possible, putting it behind a paywall. So this is like happening in real time. This is why I'm creating a database. That's why the results are going to be public, because we have to. The thing is, they are literally trying to screw up our ability to make good decisions about our bodies, our health, our children's food, our medicine, and our futures. And it's a race. And so I'm working, I get up early and I work all day, and sometimes I work all night. And I wrote this in 12 months. I wrote this in 13 months because we're in a race. And they're erasing our past. They're hiding all the real science. And then they're injecting as much confusion as possible online. And yeah, it could be big ag. But you read, Grapes of Wrath, right? Well, those of you who read Grapes of Wrath, I'm an English teacher, remember? You might remember that it was the banks that took over all the land, that displaced all the people in the Okies and all the people in the Midwest and forced them to be homeless in California. And that's where in California they banned all camping and banned like people being on the street when this happened, so that they could literally round up all the Okies and arrest them or kill them. And that's what that story is about, is how literally the police were used to kill the homeless in that time period. And so it's like it's sobering. And so we see elements of our society weaponized right now, but it's an old playbook. I mean, if you haven't read Atlas Shrugged, this is literally what's happening right now. And I'm not an Ayn Rand fan. In fact, for years, I watched that one atheist thing by her. That's everyone at that meme. And I was just like, I don't agree with you, lady. But man, Atlas Shrugged is really happening right now. So, and that's why you see this stepping back of all these people who could contribute, because they actually can't contribute. The system is set up so that they'll be mulched, or they'll just be frustrated forever because none of their attempts ever find purchase. This is what happened to my mom eventually. She got pushed out. She was a state legislator. She was restoring wetlands. She was doing all these different things, and She's my mom, so I don't agree with everything she says, right? But she got totally pushed out because she was moderate. She was always looking for compromises and always working with people who she didn't like, because that's what you do.
Can't have
That's
that.
what she says. Yeah, like growing up, she would be like, well, if you want to get things done in life, you're going to have to work with people you don't like.
Yeah, not the echo chamber.
Yeah, and be cordial. You know?
What a novel idea.
I know, right? So I've grown up with all these influences. I've seen all these things going on. I feel this deep responsibility to provide the tools that will get us out of the situation the safest way possible.
Well,
Because we're in a weird situation. What were you saying?
I was going to say, it sounds like you're doing a good job and really doing God's work with all this. It's like activism. It's permaculture activism. So
Well, I don't like that term so much, but
you don't like activism? Why?
I like taking action and living in action and living
Is that
in
another one of
enthusiasm.
those words
too.
that's all perverted?
I don't know, maybe. But I feel like this work is giving people the access to their human rights, their basic
Our
rights,
birthright.
their birthright, their inalienable rights, to participate with full measure in the abundance that our world truly has, just like waiting just beyond some work and alignment. And so it's like, we got to do the work. We got to align our systems so that they're, our systems are so dumb, like so basically dumb. I mean, like, we've all heard, like, France sells its milk to Germany and Germany sells its milk to France. Yeah, that's stupid. Mm-hmm. But it's so much deeper than that. When I went to France in '96, all the bottles were chipped and dinged because they reused them. The wine came in an old bottle. The Perrier or the whatever water came in a used bottle. They never crushed them up and boiled them down again. They literally were like, well, why would you do that? It's fine. And that's the thing, is it's like we've gotten away from such basic common sense that, like, yeah, you dropped it on the ground, wash it off, eat it. They're like, no, it fell on the ground. It is now poison. And it's like we've lost our agency as we've lost our common sense. And I think that they're connected in a fundamental way. And as we bring back common sense, we bring back agency. And so by giving people the benefit of the doubt, by giving people the information they need to liberate themselves from the chains that they are in, that they're agreeing to in so many ways, we are opening the world to all of these greater expressions. I mean, like, there's so much to be learned from indigenous examples. And yeah, we can't have the human sacrifice. I mean, I'm Celtic. That means we were headhunters and shrunk the heads and kept them. It wasn't in the history books until recently. I know they sanitized that. But all of us have that in our past. That's okay. We're not here to repeat those things, but we're here to learn from each other. And I like the low burning that the California Native Americans, indigenous peoples used to do is literally what needs to be done. And it doesn't need to be politicized. It doesn't need to be anything. It's actually just like a common sense thing. And so we're in a very weird position where they have shellacked all this stuff on top of this, and people see that. But the moment they get through that shellac, that internet propaganda layer, and they grow their own food, they're like, oh my gosh, this is really living. This is really eating.
I have power.
Yeah, and when they own their own land, they're like, wow, you know what? I never actually owned my own land when it was in that mortgage, did I? They're like, dang, I was in the system the whole time. And it's like we have to help each other break out of this system. And so providing clarity, providing entrepreneurship, and I see permaculture as the regenerative entrepreneurship menu of choice. Like, that's literally like what I do. I'm like, and you could be growing mushrooms, and you could be taking the mushroom blocks and composting them and selling compost. And I just, because I was a high school teacher with the kids who were in the 6th most violent county in America, and they're 2 years after I left there, I had 2 kids already dead. So it's like they didn't have the options. And so, like, I want to provide the options so that they can choose a different route, because the schools aren't giving it to them. The government isn't giving it to them. The narratives online, the dominant narratives online, the promoted narratives online are going to send them down the wrong road. And the reality is, it's like, this is about them. All the stuff we're doing, we're not creating like disciples or copies or anything. I don't want people doing me. I want them doing them. And like that's what this all is a call to, freedom and liberty. It's all about finding your expression of that. You're like, oh, well, actually, I started this wood lot, and it's a sustainable wood lot, and we're constantly, trimming, constantly doing, and I turn it into biochar, and now I have this biochar business. It's like, I'm not going to do that. He may not do that. That's your work.
Polyculture.
And it's the truth, though. It's like, we can't do each other's work. I can't do your personal work, your personal growth work, right? But it's also even further than that. I literally can't like fill the gap that you were meant to fill in this life. And so and the part of the reason why I know that's true is this is the 24th publication. I have written 24 publications in the past 9 years.
Nice.
I meditate and then listen. I study and listen. And this book came to me. And then it went out into the world and helped all these people. It came to me as a gift because I was trying to serve people, and I was praying about it. I was doing my meditation and doing my routine, doing my Brendan work, high performance habits, right? And that's what came to me. And I know there is something that is coming to you if you do the work.
Come on. Okay, well, shit. We go on and on about all this stuff. You're, I like you. You're a good man, doing good work in this world, and I'm really honored that you'll be speaking at the Land Summit. So
Heck yeah.
I look forward to having you share with our audience at that event, because we're going to be able to reach a lot of people, and I think this is a really powerful message. And it fits hand in hand. The theme of this year's Land Summit, we actually haven't like publicly revealed the theme, but we'll tease it now. It's this, there's this prophecy, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, which is like an indigenous South American, Mexican prophecy, and indigenous cultures in those areas. And it was this idea that there's these like 500-year epochs, and the current epoch started in 1993. And this epoch is the time frame where the Western capitalist, masculine energy, technological energy will find harmony with the indigenous earth, care of the earth, feminine, family, tribal energy. There'll be this harmonization, so they won't be in conflict with one another like they are now. But the cool thing about the prophecy is it's written that it's not inevitable. It's up to us to fulfill the prophecy. So that'll be the theme. So when you're talking about the soil and the symbiosis between the soil and our health, and it's like a big part of it is to help human beings reconnect with the land and the soil, because we've lost that connection. So I think you're going to have a lot to add to the conversation for sure.
Heck yeah. I'm finishing this trilogy with regenerative soil DNA, and I do courses for each one. Actually, the course on Monday that's happening is regenerative soil microscopy. But after the trilogy, I'm writing mind, body, soil.
Oh, cool.
Because
that's clever.
Yeah, the feedback loop. That's what it is.
I like that. Cool. Okay, the website is thepermaculturestudent.com, thepermaculturestudent.com. Looks like there's all sorts of stuff. There's free stuff. There's in-depth courses. There's stuff for adults, children, you name it. Check out Matt's work. Again, thepermaculturestudent.com. And, of course, Matt will be one of many incredible speakers at the Exit and Build Land Summit coming up May 17th, 18th, and 19th. With farm tours on the 16th and 20th. We hope you'll join us. You'll be able to watch online as well for free, or get a virtual pass. We'll be launching those soon. But if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing at Live Free Academy, head over to livefree.academy/email. livefree.academy/email. You can join our free daily email newsletter. But we hope to see you there at the Land Summit in Bastrop, Texas. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. All right, bye, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of today's Live Free Now show, where we bring you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. Until next time, stay free out there. Peace.